Welcome to the On God's Payroll global event, or you might have heard me call it a global party. I like to call it that because it is a celebration of the fact that it is the divine design and your birthright to thrive at what you love and were born to do financially and otherwise. So as always, I'm inviting at the beginning, take a moment, really arrive, get present, have your pen and paper handy, and listen in with a willingness to activate your deepest knowing of this truth and your ability to act from it, to bring the most thrilling expression of your soul work into form, whatever the next level of that is, regardless of what has happened before this moment, whatever fears, whatever upper limits, anything that may have seemed to prevent you from being fully clear or able to take that next step. We're here to support you. So allow yourself to receive exactly the insight, inspiration, tool, or next step that is perfect for you. Today, we have another incredible conversation with another living demonstration of thriving in her soul work and leadership. I will introduce her in a moment. I'm your host and creator of this event, Lisa Bekowitz, and today I am thrilled to present to you Sara D. Morell. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So happy to have you here. And I'm just going to share real quick, because you have a gift for us to kick us off right from the start. I'm just going to share your bio for a quick minute here so that those who are meeting you for the first time or don't know you well yet have a little context for the magic that you live. Sara D. Morell is a public speaker, on stage in person to almost 1 million people, coach, author of the Magnetizing Miracles guidebook, builder of global communities, and venturer of real estate. One of the founders and seed investors of the Sanctuary Project, an eco-luxury, self-sustaining mini-city development, traveling to almost 70 countries and studying with masters, healers, mentors, and guides. Her life is dedicated to sharing ancient secrets known to cure the incurable that have helped heal thousands of lives. She's an intuitive conduit, teaching wisdom that has helped her and many others to become master manifestors in what she calls co-creating your reality. She owns multiple businesses and is creator of Royale, a financial education institute. Sara founded a global NPO that helped fund and run a school for impoverished children, educational experiences, and working with orphans, receiving a humanitarian award in India, and being voted by Global Women as one of the top 100 international entrepreneurs. So beautiful, so powerful. Today, we're talking about magnetize miracles, deepen your connection to hear God, and build wealth on purpose. This is so your area of expertise and embodiment, Sara. Sara, it's incredible. Like poster child for why we're all here together. And one of the things I've noticed about you is it's so clear. You emanate devotion to God. You emanate, radiate how you move, how you speak, how you teach, how you share. You are clearly God first. And so I'd love to invite you. You suggested a prayer as we begin, and I would love if you would bless us with a prayer to begin.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Receiving me and noticing me and giving me one of the greatest compliments that I could ever receive. I could go deep on that conversation, but for now, we'll close our eyes. Anyone who's listening to this message now, I invite you to slow down with me. Slow down with us and sink into this beautiful moment. It is often in the stillness and the slowing down that we are able to speed up in our life, but we sometimes can resist that. So for now, let's deepen into this conversation, into this experience, and see what unfolds for you. Taking deep, slow breaths, holding as long as you can, because when you hold the breath, it's what hugs the lungs. It's what slows down your heart rate. Slowly letting out and then setting the intention for this call. Our intention is that you receive the most medicine that you can, walking away, seeing miracles transform in front of your eyes. We call in God. We call in our angels. We call in our benevolent, ascended masters and ancestors to be here with us in this room now. Yahweh, we ask you to take our eyes so that we may see with your eyes in all that we do. Take our mouth so that we may speak your words, and point our heart towards you in everything that we do. We thank you for our breath. We thank you for our eyes to see. And we give to you today that your will be done in all that we do in our life. We thank you for this moment. We thank you for every ear that listens. In your mighty name we pray. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You already have me crying.
Tears of devotion. Thank you. That was so, so beautiful. So beautiful. Oh, perfect for me too. Ooh, as we start here. And to begin, I would just love to hear your way of thinking about this term, on God's payroll. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm going to add that anybody listening, I'm not the type of person who just speaks and shares my life or stories. I'm consistently giving you tangible things you can do today in this moment that can activate your life. So I hope you have your pen and paper, and really encourage you to listen all the way through so you can learn about some of the universal laws and some of the things that have gotten me from, ex-drug addict, stripper, homeless to building many cities internationally, co-buying a castle in London and opening up these international houses of miracles. These I'm kind of like churches for God. So when I think of on God's payroll, it's a gift to be here. And when we realize that our birthright is to be abundant, that it isn't necessarily anything we have to do, it's a beingness, we understand and alchemize ourselves to the natural state of receiving God's payroll. Everything is here that is for us, like when we think of the Wright brothers and they created the plane, when you hold conviction and you don't give up, you receive. So whatever a man believes, he can achieve. But the truth is what Yeshua taught so much is about holding conviction and faith. And most people, when they get to this point where it takes the God leap or the big leap, they run away. But God's payroll means that it's undeniable. It is we're here to make manifest God's glory in human form. God's payroll is a promise. It's the promise that we are to bring the heavens kingdom to the earthly realm. We're not on, our boss doesn't pay us or these projects don't pay us. It's in God's hands. I do go a level deeper. So most people talk about the art of manifestation. And if you've ever heard me on this, I'm going to share it again. God showed me in a vision quest, manifestation, capital M-A-N, through man. Co-creation, Sara, is when you give your will to God and you co-create the reality beyond the measure of what you could believe for yourself. I had thought I was going to buy 7 Airbnbs around the world. I thought this was like the cool goal. And then next thing you know, I'm building many cities because I've always given it to God. So God's payroll will always be grander than we can even imagine for ourselves. So that's kind of what I think when I think of God's payroll.
Love it. And you speak I love the certainty of the promise. And there's a code right there for everyone. Receive the certainty here emanating from this woman, the knowing of how it works because you've proven it over and over and over again. And you touched into your journey, because there was a time when it didn't look anything like this. And you've proven how God leaps work and what happens when you surrender to divine will. Just give us a peek into that previous time, that previous chapter in Sarah's unfolding, and what happened to bring you back to let God lead.
I was born on All Saints' Day in St. Joseph, in a Saint Christian hospital, given two names that mean of God and devoted to God. My parents don't believe in God. Well, they didn't. And my birth numbers are 1111. In scripture, there's a story of Sarah. Hebrews 11:11. And they call her Saint Sarah. So when I tell people my story, I'm going to go back to the Genesis. I believe that Saint Sarah's spirit has imparted into my spirit, and that I was born to help bring people home to God and to give home. And I'm continuously walking as God reveals to me why I was born on All Saints' Day in St. Joseph and all these things. I once, I don't know, I think when you're here for mastery and you have a really big walk and a big life, you can get equal the resistance. And I've, also my birthday is Halloween at midnight. My full birth numbers is 19, so it's where I get the fourth one. And I've walked in the dark for a very long time for the first half of my life. A lot of trauma as a child, and a lot of poverty and scarcity and negative mindset thinking. And, bless my parents' heart, they're incredible, but they went through a lot and they did the best that they could, but that was really traumatic. And I, at a really young age, at the age of 13, got into methamphetamines and drugs and alcohol and cigarettes and marijuana and acid and you name it, I found it. And I've been in drive-by shootings with police, or drive-by shootings in the house. A bullet came just feet from me, and a child beside me. And I've had my house raided by the police twice, not just once, but twice. And finally, when a friend died in front of me from a gunshot wound, I heard God say, "It's time now, Sarah." And I quit methamphetamines, but I spent years as a stripper, as an exotic dancer, and in really dark industries and bartending, just playing with demons, playing with entities, and really learning what it is to be there. But I had felt God the entire time. And even in, getting high-speed chases, we got barricaded in by police. They arrested everybody but me. They put me in the car and handed me the keys to the car, to a guy's car I've never met before. And when they raided my house twice by police, I had heard God say, "Don't move." And all the drugs I had at the time were hidden by my feet. And I have no record. Thank God. I have all of these situations. I've come out, all of it happened to come out to stand on stage and say, I understand the darkness. I was classified disabled by the age of 17 and told I would never work. I was so sick that I used to lay in my own vomit, unable to yell for help. So much pain. I lived in the hospital as a little girl for about a month on my own. I remember, wetting the bed in this hospital and having to come and get strangers to help me, and really understand what it feels like to be in jail in your body, and to feel lost and scared and hateful and just so sick. And then slowly God started to reveal and started to whisper and show. And it's not that I didn't have God throughout all of it, I did, but for whatever reason, God had me walk in these storms. And again, I believe that it's because now I can help, all my clients and all the people that I work with, wherever they're at, doesn't matter. You can transform. So there's still the moments of tests of faith. That doesn't end. fear is just the opportunity for us to dive deeper into faith. And even though I've gone through all of that, and experienced everything I have now to be grateful for, that is still in my nervous system. I've done tons of somatic healing, and I'm a big person, you just said it, on stage to 1 million people, and meditating with Deepak Chopra and private planes and hanging out at Richard Branson's house. Like, my life's amazing. And I still have all those sexual traumas and the emotional abuse and the drug addiction stuff. All of that is still in my nervous system. So when there's a moment of fear that arises in my life, that is the opportunity for me. Sorry, I had a call coming in, to deepen again to that remembrance. Oh, I remember when you took me from there to here. So I'm with you, whoever's listening. It's an imperfectly perfect walk of us having compassion for ourselves and compassion for others, no matter where you were or where you are.
Amen.
Mm.
And I love your authenticity. I think that's what's being called for anyone leading in these times, to be more authentic than ever. It's not about being the guru on the top of the mountain. It's, I went through the human stuff and I'm bringing God to it. And that is the journey.
Mhm.
And it doesn't end. We keep expanding to new areas and keep finding pockets where God hasn't entered yet in our being. So thank you for that, and for playing in the darkness to make you that powerful a messenger.
Thank you.
Yeah, so beautiful. So depending, for anyone listening, wherever they are in this moment with being called up into their next level of surrender, they know they're being called forward. Maybe they're clear about exactly how, maybe they're not quite clear yet. Maybe they're newer on the path. Maybe they're quite masterful, but there is a pocket and it's challenging. What's the first thing you suggest? Because I know you are highly practical. You have a huge toolbox, a bag of tools and suggestions in ways to embody this devotion. Would you say number one is? Where would someone start when they're bumping up against something and they can't see their way forward?
Let's always go to God. I mean, like, it sounds so stupid, but I'm going to give you, can I give him a few?
Of course. And I actually meant in the context of going to God. Like, what's the first thing? Like, I gotta let go. Yes. So yes, when you go, what's the first thing? You're bumping up, you go to God. Where do you start?
Well, when I started out my practice of coaching, but I don't like using that word anymore. I say mentoring. I've never really liked it. I was on food stamps and laying on the ground, wanting to commit suicide in the middle of the worst. Divorce was so difficult for me. It was 12 hearings, $120,000 in attorney fees. Just really quite a stretch on faith, and boy, did God show up. But I always go back to these moments of when you're here and you find yourself in the testament of going bigger, you hit imposter syndrome. And I'm on this floor, I'm broke, I'm everything that should not be coaching at all. And I'm in a state of prayer, and I hear God on my God walk tell me, you will launch a program called Holy Wealth. And I'm like, oh no, sir, no, I'm not. Like, you got this woman who's on food stamps? You want me to teach somebody? And I'm having an argument with God. And we all have the voice. We all can hear if we choose. And I love working with people to develop that. But I know that I'm gifted in prophecy. I am gifted in receiving intuitive messages, and I am gifted to hear God. And so I'm hearing God, I'm having this argument, and I'm like putting God aside, and then God says it again. I'm like, no, listen, I got it. First, let me make the money, and then I'll teach people. And I hear people talk a lot about how coaches need to be experienced before they teach. They need to go through. I don't necessarily believe in that fully. I think they need to have certain leadership qualities. I think they need to know how to transmute energy. I'm 5 planet Scorpio. I'm all about transformation, right? There needs to be some qualities in there. But the codes are delivered to us by God. In fact, God calls the unqualified and then qualifies them. I'm like literally walking down my mountain and God's like, you're going to teach this. I'm like, I am not qualified, sir. It's literally biblical. I mean, if you look at all these stories in the Bible about people from homeless to building mini cities, the sanctuary is an eco luxury, self-sustaining mini city in Dripping Springs that hopefully will come through. We don't know. We've got it. We have 104 acres. And then we have a couple other developments from homeless to building mini cities. This is biblical. So I'm walking down this mountain and having an argument with God, and God says, no, you will build this. You're gonna do your thing, and I'm gonna come through you. And finally, the scream was so loud, I was getting in trouble, and I knew it. It was, roof caving in. I didn't have money to feed, and God was like, "This is how you will feed your kids. This is what you need to do." So I grabbed my phone one day. I hit post on I have a program, and I called it Fuel. I didn't call it Holy Wealth. And all these people signed up, and I was like, oh my God, I got to create the program. So I opened up my laptop, and through me came what I call kingdom codes. This is what I'm teaching you on this call and when I teach other people, and it's still being defined and redefined as our seasons change and as life changes. And so the first thing is like imposter syndrome is going to hit you. That's called the law of threshold. And your law of threshold, which is AKA The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. He wrote this amazing book. If you haven't listened to it yet, it's free on YouTube. I highly encourage you to listen to. The law of threshold states that our subconscious will only allow us to get to a certain place before, when we're trying to go bigger, it's going to go, oh, no, go back to the old, that the familiar old is the safe, right? I think Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it all the time. Your job is to break through the law of threshold. Now, the way that when you get to this moment of, I need to go bigger, and everything in my body saying, Mayday, you're going to die. This is where you lean into God to trust. You ask God to put peace into your heart. You understand, first of all, understand that this is the law of threshold. When I went to speak on stage to 1 million people, I was angry. Like, I wasn't scared. I was mad. I had anger in my body. I thought all these crazy stories I don't need to tell you, but I got there. Even after I got off stage, I was still mad. I did phenomenal. Everybody there was like, I wish I could have spoke like you. You were the best speaker ever. Even the guy who organized it, he's like, you were so captivating. You pulled people in. But my law threshold, the old self had to die. And I was screaming, you imposter, you fake, you like, all of these things were coming up because the old self had to die. So another way I explain this to people is that when you're on station 101.1 and you want to go to 101.7, you have to go through static. And that's just the stretch moments. And so understanding, first of all, it's normal that your nervous system feels this way. It's normal you feel the imposter syndrome. Even J.Lo on an interview said after she won all these Grammys that she still felt like someday people were going to discover she sucked. So imposter syndrome is normal. You say, God, give me the peace and stretch. You make sure that you have an epic community of people around you who are always mirroring back to you your greatness. I want you guys into scripting. So every single night you will write to yourself, first, what are you grateful for? Gratitude unlocks the clues is what God told me. Praise alchemizes all heavy. So first of all, just start saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And even before I get on this call, I'm going fast, sorry. I always say, Infinite Holy Spirit, I affirm I know all I need to know on blank. So fill in the subject, serving Lisa in this call. So Infinite Holy Spirit, I affirm I know all I need to know on the subject of elevating the people who listen today in your name. Thank you. Like I affirm I know all I need to know on this. And you allow God to enter into the room with you when you're stepping into that go bigger. And you watch then as you praise and you give gratitude, the clues will unlock. So your GPS signal will then be activated and you will hear, go to this cafe, stop at this thing. It's funny, it's interesting because I always tell everybody the go to the cafe in analogy. I've been saying this for 5 years. Your intuition was stop. Say go to the cafe and then you'll meet your business partner. I actually met my beloved at a cafe just a couple months ago. So it's interesting how it all comes together, but you don't wait. Because if you hear the GPS say go left and you don't, well, then you got to reroute that shit, right? Like that's not fun. So you want to make sure you're taking what I call aligned action. It's the law of aligned action. So you have the law of the threshold, the law of love. You listen, you always lead with the love, and the law of aligned action. So here you are at night, you're going to be scripting, you're going to write what you're grateful for, and then you're going to write, what do you want to see in your life? The next day, the next month, the year, and feel it when you're writing it. Get as descriptive as you can, but then it is allowing to let go. So if I argued with God, I had to have Airbnbs, I wouldn't be building many cities. So that surrender you talked about in the beginning of this and trusting is so important. But the subconscious, so some coaches will just say, let it go, and like, it'll come. Your subconscious does need some tangible, accessible 10 different ways it might possibly happen. And then you can be in align with the tone of truth. The tone of truth is something I teach a lot about as well. The tone of truth is what's going to give peace in your body. So those are some tactical tips. And then as you're falling asleep, you're going to breathe in and out whatever you're up against, or I don't want to say against, climbing to your next elevation for with this law of threshold in your life, that upper limit problem, the going bigger resistance, the equal to greater the resistance of your goal will always show typically. As you're falling asleep, you're going to breathe in and out. What is, something you could think of yourself like, oh, I have peace in my bigness, or things come to me easily and effortlessly. I'm large sums of money. I would say over and over, this is already solved for me, or whatever that might is. You literally go into a hypnosis state and you ask God to reveal to you as you're sleeping and in your dreams what you need to know. Last night, I received more information, clear as day, moonshot, Sarah, and it showed me the project. I knew exactly what God was saying. As you wake up, you make sure before your feet hit the bed that you recite your prayer and you can affirm that day. So that is some of the things I would say to the people listening. If you're facing that law of threshold, it's normal to not feel good. And there's some steps that they can take to help them to step into the feeling good.
So good. In case y'all haven't noticed, Sara is a firecracker, and she just boom, the channel opens and out pours the gold. So yes, hopefully pen and paper handy and writing quickly. Thank you for that. That is so powerful. Such universal law to really leverage those times, like the moment when you're falling asleep, utilizing these universal laws. I've heard you say God's love language is quality time. I love that saying. And can you weave that in for us? The listening, the receiving, the in all of this. Obviously, your mastery is hearing God. So helping us hear God through that idea.
It's my favorite question. I want to add childlike wonder is so key to everything. I used to have guilt that I was too loving and too childlike. I would go to all these cool like mansion parties and things, and I'm like, oh, and some people would have a lot of ego, and like they're in this and I'm just like a big kid. And then I get into this investor world and with all these real estate developments, and I'm a big kid, and I would leave, and I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of a big kid, and I'm reading the Torah right now, and I opened right up to the story of Sarah. And Sarah, they said she was such a big kid and she led with childlike wonder and was in constant state of devotion. And I'm like, wow, I'm reading about myself. And if you study really, if you learn the secret codes, I believe in the real translation of scripture. I'm not religious. I am a follower of Yeshua, and I understand there's a treasure hunt there. And if you can read the translation, the truth of the word, like when somebody says fear the Lord, it's not real. It's actually reverence. Reverence. So fear means reverence. So there is a translation. I just want to add all of that. I understand the church hurt and the way we've fallen from God because man's hand has gotten a hold of power and corruption to use God's love almost against us, that has created separation, because when you separate, you conquer. So I want to speak to that so that you know that my heart is with you, and there is a different and deeper truth. But childlike wonder is something, it's in the fruits and the gifts too. If you study the fruits and the gifts, like peace and laughter, these are tools, some of the most powerful tools for us to go big, like, yeah, when I stood on stage with a million people, when I was in the car, I was being silly. And, they told me I couldn't pee anywhere on this land. And I went and found that pot to pee and everybody was laughing. Like, childlike wonder is the alchemizer for me. My laughter, I'll have uncontrollable laughter. I'd lay in Daniel's arm. We all know our beloved Daniel Raphael, and I will just laugh for hours. And that really can help you. We take things so seriously and we overcomplicate so much, and it's really pretty damn simple. Love ourselves and our God with all of our hearts and love each other. And then find play. So play will lift you up. Play will get you there in your go bigger version. And in fact, you see a lot of people who've gotten really big in their career, found they switch to add play. Children learn, I think it's 10 times faster from the art of play than they do any other way. And why our school system doing what we're doing, I don't know. So God's love language is time. Period. So much. And thank you, Sola, my love. I'll have to give you her information later if you want to interview this woman. Incredible when it comes to God's payroll. She's the one who first kind of opened up this discovery for me. When most of us are talking at God or talking about God, and I will hear God say, stop it all the time. Stop talking at me or stop talking about me. Come to me. And so even in prayer, I stop and I'm in silence first for usually 30 seconds to a minute. And I listen. And I listen and I talk with my heart. I posture my heart. I pray with my heart. You're praying with your energy. So the law of vibration states that what you are feeling is what's going to be coming back to you. And so you're in a constant state of prayer with God, and you have to check your feelings. So when you take stillness, silence, and solitude each and every single day to spend time with God, you're going to heal. Like, the best therapist I've ever had is God. Through what I call prayer meditations and visualizations, I go into a state between asleep and awake, and I am with God. All the visions to build these things that I've done is from that stillness and silence. I actually don't go to meditate to empty my mind. People might throw things at me with this comment, but I go to receive and participate in Vision Quest. So I plug in, and often even when we're in church or we're in communities and we're talking about God, it's like, everybody stop for a minute. Close your eyes and feel, what are you hearing? God's like, finally. So practical tools outside of visualization and meditations where you're going literally into wishful or let me hear you, God. Barefoot, and you can actually take L-theanine. It's a natural root plant that can help you get into that meditative state. David DeG would say rise, pee, meditate. I don't do that. For me, I'm the afternoon nap right time is when I'm best to go plug in. Bare feet in the earth every day. I do a God walk with angel sounds. Meilon, she's on YouTube. She's my favorite. I'll send it to you too if you want to share it to people. And I listen to that and I can hear God so much more. Music is a really big tool for me to receive God. So if you see me a lot out and about, I have a thing in my ear. I take on a lot of people's energy. And so this is something that helps me to stay with God's love pouring out. God writing. You can write a letter to God asking a question, and then you say, God, take my hand and answer. Watch out. Also, if you set the intention, God, let me hear you. This is a powerful one. So many people, after I've told this to them, have called me crying. And if you're watching this now, please Instagram me. I want to know. And they're like, you're not going to believe it. I felt God's love. Ask God to feel God's love. Close your eyes and just go into a state of prayer. God, can I feel your love? Might not happen in that moment, but you'll get building that muscle and it will happen. You'll fall to your knees. It feels like you took a set of ecstasy drugs and it's irrational. There are moments where God says, get on your knees, Sarah, and I'm in a plane, and I'm like, what do you mean? No, can we gotta go to the bathroom like right now? And on your knees. Or I'm in a event. One time I was Daniel's house and he's like, get on your knees. I'm like, can I wait? And I listen, because obedience means to hear. That's the word. It's, when we think of obedient, to hear. And you get on your knees And when the act of getting on your knees is actually like an antenna to receive the gift that God has for you. And I don't know why we must bow sometimes to receive it, but it's almost like, oh, in order to get it. It's hard to understand, but also it's why people raise their hands when they're in church or in prayer and these things. It's like literally, it's just how you're able to amplify God. Another way that you can actually receive God more in the love language of time is there's certain times of the day where God is amplified. So between 3 a.m., this is why they call it God's hour, where he wakes you up. If you're not listening enough during the day, God will start waking you up at 3:30. So you know you haven't been plugging in. So there's from 3 to 6, you wake up, you can script. That's where you read out loud your life from the future and how it feels to be with God. But yeah, stillness, silence, and solitude is your greatest medicine. And if you feel the resistance in life, if you're feeling pain, if you're feeling discomfort, you actually can go. I heard God say, I need you to go to the bed, Sarah, and I want you to welcome abandonment, the feeling. And so you can say, God, help me with this, pull in that emotion or feeling, and then God will give you the details on how to heal it. So immediately when I did this, I saw myself in an incubator as an infant baby. Of course I had abandonment. I was C-section, staff, emergency, and I heard God say, now hold baby Sarah. And so I grabbed baby Sarah and I'm just crying in this meditation. Now, I didn't need a therapist. Like I just had God. So that really is God's love language, is to be, I paint my face every day. I don't know if you can see these little dots. And I do it in honor. There's these here. This is God, 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 tattoo God, to remember. And it will become an addiction for you. It will become a source of your greatest power and peace, non-negotiable.
Oof.
Mm.
Fire, 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 fire. And for anyone listening, like this is one to listen to. I don't know how many times, because every time you will receive more, hear more. And again, and I have been saying in these conversations, like take what resonates, work with that first. You don't need to do everything at once. Take the first thing that you know is right. And you've so beautifully expressed what's worked for you. Like we all have to find that beautiful mix. It's like a recipe, the recipe that bakes the perfect cake. Like take these pieces. And I love this. You've mentioned about helping yourself remember, because I've also heard you say this realm is designed for us to forget.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we've got to play together, that
Yes. And these are such powerful codes, right? That we shouldn't feel bad. Like what you're saying about hitting an upper limit, like it's supposed to be that way. We're meant to, when you feel like the imposter, move through it. Everything that you're saying, there's codes, there's these places. So not to feel bad. It's right. It's okay. It's the way it works. And this realm is designed to make us forget. So let's not feel bad about forgetting, but let's do what it takes to remember. So anything you want to say about remembering in addition to that, and I would add to your dating God practice and things like reminders that God is in love with me, which is one that I adopted from you. I've adopted a number of these. I've adopted stats. So, oh, it's so beautiful to have those reminders. So talk to us about the forgetting, but then the remembering, and that God is in love with us.
Thank you for this, because even myself, as you know, so much comes through us. And then people ask, what do you say? And I'm like, I don't know. My strong suit is not memory. My dad actually has Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. And there's been a subtle underlying courage in me of like, this is not going to be my walk, but I legit have worked really hard to get my memory where it's at. So for me, I've done a lot of work to remember, and I do share that this earthly realm is here to help. It wants you to forget. Heaven wants you to remember. The kingdom wants you to remember. And some of the tangible things that I do to remember is I set a million alarms in my phone. Thankfully, the people around me are pretty patient. And it's important that when your alarm goes off in your phone, you actually sit and feel that sensation. Maybe it's 30 seconds, maybe it's 2 minutes. If you have a big goal right now, it's actually 222 right at this moment. I looked at the time. I just got like, look at the time. You want to set it for at least 5 times a day and sink into it for 2 minutes. So I do a lot of work on identity. I really believe that we co-create our reality. I do fully subscribe that it's not, oh, God in the sky and he's a man. No, I don't subscribe to any of that. I think God is the most mightiest love force energy that exists. And we have been given the gift to co-create our reality. And if we have fear, then it will pull that in, right? If we're not in faith, like we're taught, we will attract it to get to faith. That's the whole point of it. So in identity work, I'll have my clients or I myself, when I want reminders, I'll have that alarm go off, and then I feel the sensation of the future version of me. So some of my clients might write Queen Sara, right? Or Queen or Jedi Jong, or like, I have all of my team that will have their new name, that their identity that they're stepping into. And those alarms will remind you of, peace, whatever you're wanting to remember. I have post-its. Again, I paint myself, all of my bracelets. So your left arm is for receiving. Anything you put here, put it well to attract what you want to bring. And your right arm is for giving. Yeah, okay, great. So your right arm is for giving. So it's also why, even in like what I love about rabbis and Jewish cultures, they really understood some of the secrets that God has taught. If you want to be abundant, that's why they're so successful. The only time that God commands we test it is through giving. Only time that it says it. So you actually receive 5 times the amount when you give back. So your one hand is for receiving, your other hand is for giving. So to remember, have things on your body that remind you. There are also ancient marma points that you can press in your body. Thank you, Dr. Clint Rogers and Dr. Naram. I've traveled the world with these master healers for 7 years who cure the incurable. I've watched it with my own eyes, including myself. So I'm going to teach you guys a marma right now to remember. You actually lay your left hand over and you flip 1 time, and the last finger place in the middle, and you should feel a little bit of a sensation. Like you can kind of go around and feel like, oh, that's like a trigger point. One's like, ooh, that's a spot. And you're going to close your eyes and you're going to visualize you're in front of your left eye, a white frame, and you're going to imagine what it is that you're moving towards. It might be the right eye. I always get these one back, but either way, it's powerful. And you press it, and what are you locking in? Like, are you calling in a beloved? Are you calling in, speaking on stages? And you see that version of you, and you press it 6 times. And this is going to lock it into your subconscious so that your subconscious gets behind remembering to trigger you. And you'll do that 6 times a day. You're going to have accountability partners. You want people to remind you to remember, set up an accountability call that's going to really help you to stay on track with identity. Those are just some things, but I want to move on to your second question to make sure that I'm covering that. Because really a lot of this is just us falling asleep again and again and again. When we're in fear, we've forgotten that we are God in human form. When we're with somebody who's angry, they forgot they were God. Everything is an expression of God to help you to remember. The more you get good at this, even this morning I had my moment of like thing that had come up, and I took myself on a God walk, and I was like, oh, remember who you are. Okay, got it, cool. I went to human for a minute. I'm God in human form, right? Even Yeshua said it, we're not written that we are God in human form. We are not the God. But moving on to dating the divine. Oh, what a beautiful practice. A few years ago, 3 years ago, again, through the divorce, I was on my bed crying to God, saying, I just don't feel that I'm lovable. And my divorce was awful. My ex-husband would always say I'm crazy and worthless and all these things. And the guy I had dated right after, one of the things he said to me was, don't you think you're pretty low totem pole to be asking for things you want? And he was right in the moment. I was high levels of debt, going through a divorce. I had 2 very active, crazy boys, homeless, ex-drug addict, whatever. But I knew in my heart, my dream was Oprah meets Mother Teresa. And so then we break up. I'm laying on this bed, and I'm like, God, I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. And I said, take me on a date. take me on a date and show me how lovable I am, because I need you, God. And this is the moments where you just say, God, I need you to show up now. And God loves that. He's like, cool, I got you, no problem. And God gave me this premonition of go to Colombia. And that's where my white bunny tattoo, you can't really see it on my arm, is from. And God showed me and taught me the kingdom codes on dating the divine. To date God, when you lean in and say, God, swoon me, blow my mind, show me how lovable I am, how much you love me. Like, let me see myself through your eyes, God. I am telling you what, like, I had girls getting me flowers, not just men, but women. I had lingerie bought by women. Like, what? Like, just swooning me. Chocolate. I remember I was at this restaurant and the owners come out. They don't even serve chocolate at the restaurant. And they're like, we don't know why, but we felt like we had to give this to you. It was a bar of chocolate. And I was walking down the street with Dr. Clint Rogers in Colombia. And this guy comes running across the street and he's yelling, meet him more, meet him more. I'm walking with a man. Like, shouldn't happen. And he has a ring in the shape of an S, Sarah. And he's like, I have to give this to you, and puts it on my hand. I had 2 private helicopters with knights, very attractive, sexy knights, not just once, but twice in the same month. Like, my mind was blown. I was just shown over and over and over how lovable I am. It never stopped. I do go a little bit back to sleep and I'll say, God, take me on a date again, and watch and just receive how people leaving notes on my car. I'd come out and it would say, you're lovable, like just the craziest things. And so you can take that practice. God, take me on a date, show me. And I have a free masterclass if they're watching and they message me on Instagram. It's learning how to fall in love with yourself like your life depends on it, dating the divine. And there is some practices to do that I'm teaching there that will really help you to see yourself from God's eyes.
Oof. Amen. Oh my God. There's just so much. And we're coming to the end of our time. Like, I wanted to go 5 levels deep on everything you said. But we'll trust that it's perfect. Firstly, before I go any further, a shout out to Daniel Raphael. He's also in this interview series. So everyone check out his interview as well, because he was the one you mentioned, just putting your head in his lap and laughing and laughing. And he's a dear soul. And that's how I know you, through him. So thank you, Daniel. And can you say a few words before we wrap up on money? Just whatever you want to say, and whether it's to do with how your relationship to money has changed, how you see, like, what is the importance and the meaning of money when you're in this level of alignment?
Yeah, wealth is your birthright. And understanding the kingdom principles and what we're here to make manifest isn't through your doing, it's through your being. I went blind last year for weeks in a freak accident, and most excruciating pain in my life. And I've given birth to babies naturally who were posterior. And I would rather do that again than go to have this accident. Like, I had slices, cuts straight in all my eyes. I lost my taste and my smell. And that's where God took me to the butterfly cocoon of darkness to rebuild me. And there's been a few staple key moments in my life where I have been gifted to understand what wealth really is. And that's really my walk here, is to bring people home to God and prosperity. And it's changing what we understand wealth to be and having prosperity on purpose. That's God's payroll. When I went blind, my land was worth 11.11 million. Interesting enough, the address is 1111. And when I got out of the blindness, my business partner showed up. It's not my land, it's our land. Showed up and said our land was valued at $30 million. And I didn't do anything. I'm in the blindness. I'm stuck. I'm going through God revealing to me where I'm out of alignment and teaching me all these lessons. It was in my being, not necessarily my doing. Now, there is the law of aligned action. So God will deposit, desire means of the Father. So you'll feel a desire to serve the world in a certain way. Usually people hit the law of threshold. They don't actually hit it. They don't go through and do it. If you can get through that law of threshold, keep showing up bigger and take the aligned action. When God says, get up and go, launch this program, go to the cafe, then the money is the result of following your passion on purpose. Yes, you can build wealth another way. People do it all the time and they get sick and disease and disorder comes in. True wealth is doing what you want to do when you want to do it. And it's being in the state of play. It's being in the state of aliveness. It's loving what you do. I just traveled 30,000 miles. Just to comprehend, in 2 months, I traveled 30,000 miles. To go across the United States, that's 3,500 miles. So it's 30,000 miles. I woke up one morning and I was in Turkey and God's like, you're going to Egypt today. I'm like, yes, I am. Okay. And I would grab a plane and I was in London. I woke up and God was like, you're going to Scotland today. And I was like, okay. And I got in a train, got my Mercedes car, got my castle. And I woke up and God was like, you're going to Serbia today. I'm like, okay. I'm in a castle. Like, it was no limit in all direction. Just imagine there's no limit to your fulfillment, just full freedom. Whatever you want to do, when you want to do it, that level of like anything. Like I could literally walk down and just buy a house with cash right now. Oh my God, thank you, God. This is through understanding the kingdom principles. Your wealth is in your state of being and aligned action with the law of love. If you are operating out of ego, that is where you get a Miserati instead of a Maserati. It is so important. There are so many investments that I have made in my life where nobody else got their money back and I did. And I believe that's because I've always been in the law of love. I've always made sure, even in the face of injustice, where it was like, hey, if you say this thing, you're going to lose all of your shares of the company or all the money or whatever. I've stood up and been like, I have to say it and to save other people, protect. And I think that's really your wealth. God doesn't know if, God knows when. And as long as you are, smiling in that mirror so the mirror can smile back, taking those aligned action, trusting, pushing through your upper limit. I do also think, and I'm going to say, and I'm going to rest with this. My book is a gift to everybody, so they can message me. I'll give them the book. It's going to teach them more about wealth, energetics, and mindset and kingdom prosperity. This is a season. This is something my beloved taught me, and it's been a difficult one for me. It's called Sabbath. And we all know about a Sabbath day, right? But there's actually something called a Sabbath year. And we are to take rest to be with God, or God will rapture us. And I think I look at God, Lord, as electricity, right? And we get burnt if we don't understand how to use it. And it needs to be grounded into the earth for a year so you can go even deeper in the roots. So then you can go even bigger. It's a slingshot. We get pulled back so we can go bigger. I wasn't listening when God took my eyesight. God kept saying, slow down, slow down, slow down. I was raptured. There is a beauty in the Sabbath year or the Sabbath time. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months of you just trusting the stillness. Like right now in my heart, I've been guided for almost 3 months, not really to work. And it is a stretch for me. Although I am so busy on all these projects I'm doing, I'm not client coaching or posting. I'm not in that production. I'm just being in Sabbath with what is already maintained. And I do know that this is something a lot of people aren't talking about, and the Sabbath is really important, and it is very uncomfortable for me. I'm a lightning bolt. I'd like to move fast. But with that stillness and trust, you will be given a greater level of a gift. So whether it's the spirit of might or intuition and prophecy, whatever that is, from your stillness and putting yourself in Sabbath with God, you will receive exponentially more in building your kingdom and building your wealth and leaving your legacy.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just codes upon codes upon codes, gifts upon gifts here. So thank you for everything that you have shared. You are a thunderbolt, beautiful force of nature. We will connect here with right below this video, your free gift. It's called Gifted Kingdom Codes Guidebook to Magnetize Miracles. I'm going to say a few quick words about that if someone is drawn to say yes to that.
Yeah, it's an interactive book. So there's writing practices. There's an audio note for me in the beginning. If you listen to my introduction, there's specific songs that I use to manifest in a ancient secrets taught both by myself and these master healers, and then a cumulative of wisdom that has helped thousands of lives that I have seen myself. Either I've worked with or have watched. So it's all in that. It's a gift. It's completely free. God has told me that this isn't anything that I'm supposed to charge for. And yeah, I'm excited to see what might transpire for anyone who has listened to this message or listens to the book, watches the book, plays with the book, and shares with me. I'd love to hear. It's medicine to my work, it's fuel to my soul to know that my ability to co-create with God is making a difference, because I always feel like I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. So help me to feel I can sink into my Sabbath by letting me know that I am doing enough.
I can definitely let you know you are doing enough. In the 2 times I've gotten to see you live, what an impact. So piercing, the messages that you sent. So thank you for gifting us with everything that you shared today, spoken and unspoken, because much has come through as a transmission. You mentioned messaging you on Instagram if they want to share the blessings of putting these things into practice or using the gift that is your book. Where do they find you on Instagram and anywhere else you want to point them to?
Sara D. Morell. So it's Sara, just like it says on Zoom. D is in Denise, which means devoted to God. So Sara is the woman who birthed the linen. She's known as Mother Laughter. And Morell, Morell. Just my Instagram. Just message me there. Super easy, simple. And then lots of gifts, things that I can send. Yeah, and thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Lisa, for creating such a space. It is not easy. It takes tons of energy. I mean, you were herding cats even to text me. We had to schedule it. I'm always on God's schedule. I'm awful when it comes to keeping appointments, because God will say, go left, right, and I have to listen. So thank you, Lisa, for giving this space for God. I call these Godcasts, for God's voice and message to come through. And I'm praying for you and your mission, and that you really do help all of us to surrender more into our Sabbath and our bigness, and to trust. So I see you and appreciate you.
Thank you so much. So gratefully received. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I could talk to you for hours, of course. And everybody, thank you so much for being here and tuning in and receiving. Take some minutes now, if you can, have a little mini Sabbath in this moment. Take some notes down in your journal of what's really jumped out at you or what God is telling you right now, because your knowing is there, your connection is there right now. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you in the next interview you choose to listen to. Sending you so much love. May this always serve your highest good in your highest path. Bye for now.